Honorable Dr. Adutwum, who is Deputy Minister of Education, to share with us his vast experience as an astute educationist, and also how we as students can develop ourselves. Then we may also discuss some challenges we face as students in China and other issues that would come up, and an overview of the educational system that we have in Ghana, questions that may arise from it. Now, quickly, I'll introduce the dignitaries that we have. We have Mr. Benjamin Kwapomba, who is a former national president, NUGS-China. We also have the National Executive Committee of Ghana Community in China, the provincial coordinators and chapter executives. We have Mr. Alfred Hammond, who is the first secretary, Consular Affairs, Ghana Mission Beijing. Mr. Abu Osman, Minister Counselor in charge of political affairs and acting head of Chancery, also at the Ghana Mission. We have His Excellency Dr. Charles Jamina, the Deputy Ambassador, and our very own father, His Excellency Edward Boateng, who is the head of mission and Ghana's ambassador to China. So, as well as the distinguished members of NUGS-China. So, these are, I would say, the people who would constitute tonight's meeting, and I wish all of us a happy interaction. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. At this point, we'd like to invite HE to introduce our special guest for today.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you all for accepting our invitation. I think we have a full house today, 100 people. So that shows the interest that we have, all of you have in hearing from Dr. Adutwum. As you know, Dr. Adutwum is Deputy Minister of Education and also the MP for Bosomtwe. He lived for a long time in the US, where he was very successful in building charter schools. I mean, he will explain to you what charter schools are in the US educational system. President met him when he was campaigning as a flag bearer of the NPP then, and was very impressed with what he was doing and convinced him to come over to Ghana to help in our developmental process. He holds a PhD in education, but most importantly, I thought I would let Dr. Adutwum speak to you today because not only is he a good politician and a business person and educationalist, he's also a motivational speaker. I heard him speak and I was inspired myself, and I said that it would be good for the students in China who form the bedrock of our leadership in the next 10 to 20 years to also help and ask questions and motivate and also let you dream big, because it's through your dreams and through your hard work and through your risk that you are willing to take that the nation would move forward. So, Dr. Adutwum, we thank you very much for accepting our invitation to talk to us in China. You are talking to mostly Ghanaian students. A lot of them are master's and PhD students, and a lot of them also have the desire to come back home and help. So we are ready to listen to you in terms of basically your experiences. Who is Adutwum? You know, what made you who you are today? You are the minister, deputy minister of education, and through you, we're reshaping and developing the next set of Ghanaian leaders, business people, civil society leaders, politicians. So when you are no more in this position and you are sitting under the mango tree in Bosomtwe in your old age, what would make you happy? What would make you say, I did a good job as a Deputy Minister of Education and as an MP? That is what we want to hear from you today. So the floor is over to you, Doc. Hello?
Thank you. Yes, you have also inspired me by making me think ahead as to sitting under a mango tree. I'm trying to now imagine what I'll be thinking about when I sit under that mango tree. Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Ghana to the Republic of China, Deputy Ambassador to the Republic of Ghana, distinguished NUGS leaders and distinguished members of NUGS, and more importantly, citizens of Ghana. It's an honor and opportunity to address you on this occasion of Labor Day, May 1st. I just want you to know that getting to where I am, as the ambassador prompted me to speak about, has not been an easy pathway. By no means. Growing up as a son of two uneducated parents, cocoa farmers who had just started out farming and didn't have much, life was challenging. I almost did not go to high school. My father could not afford to mobilize 40 cedis to pay my deposits. And this was going to a day school, Jache Pramso Senior High School. Friends of mine who went to Achimota and Fancy Pim sometimes make fun of me, and I tell them, Jache Pramso was like heaven to me, because I was not, my parents were not in no way, shape or form going to find money to buy trunk and all the uniforms and pay my boarding fee. Even 40 cedis was a struggle. But long story short, I was able to go through education in Ghana and did a sixth form, went to KNUST and did land economy, did my national service, and Providence led me, and I found my way in United States of America, a place where I never imagined I could go to, but I was there. Started out as a security guard, worked for about 1.5 years, and then became a substitute teacher. Those are teachers who are filling for the regular teachers whenever they don't go to school for one reason or the other. So I became a substitute teacher and then became a regular teacher, something that I did for 10 years. Somewhere down the line, I had a wonderful opportunity of coming across the development of charter schools. America, one thing I love about that country is the fact that when they face challenges, they make sure that they look for all solutions possible. So when the American school system, the public schools were facing challenges, the government decided that they will allow individuals who had great ideas for school transformation to bring their proposals, and then they will give you a grant to begin the process. And I tell you this, it wasn't easy as a Ghanaian in America, immigrant in a society that sometimes can be difficult to live in. Black man from Ghana telling the government or the United States that I have great ideas and I can develop a school that will be so different and unique, and I will be able to educate the children of America better than you would, basically than the government would. And I submitted a proposal. I was awarded a grant of $450,000, and I began the process of developing a school that can accommodate students from primary 6, the equivalent of primary 6 in Ghana, all the way to high school. So we began an adventure with a few Ghanaians and other Americans, with a huge community support from politicians whose doors I knocked and said, hey, can you help me? Can you really support me and to get this going? But one thing I will let you know that is the way I got entry into American society was through working as a leader of the Ghanaian community. I was the president of the Ghana Association of Southern California. Before that, I was a secretary to the association. And I remember when President Rawlings visited, it gave me an opportunity to meet people that I would otherwise have not met. When Ambassador Chermatin and other ambassadors visited Southern California, I had a wonderful opportunity of serving them. And that also gave me an entryway into American society. So when ambassador visits, I get the opportunity to meet the mayor. I pick the mayor's business card. And when the ambassador leaves, I use that as an opportunity to call up the secretary to the mayor and say, hey, can I meet the mayor? So through the interactions with the society, by virtue of the fact that I happen to be a community leader, the doors were opened for me by the people who were visiting us from Ghana and from the US Embassy in Washington, D.C. And I took an advantage of that to build a huge community support, because see, charter schools are government funded. Even though they are founded by individuals, the funds come from the government. And the government is going to part millions of dollars to you. They want to make sure that you are legitimate. You are somebody who will not squander their resources. So they needed some people in the community to vouch for you. So all this network that I built, the mayors that I met, our politicians that I met, became the people that really held my hand into American society. And I was able to open the first school of 100 students. The school kept growing, and a number of people were coming to my school. There was a long waiting list. And I remember most of the parents will come to me and tell me, I'm bringing my child to New Designs Charter School because you are an African, and we believe an African will do a better job for our children, because you guys have a culture and you are disciplined, you love education, and therefore we want to bring our children to your school. Now, based on that, the school began to grow, and it was growing. And then I was able to go to an investment firm on Wall Street. They got us a BBB- bond rating from Standard & Poor's. And with that bond rating, we were able to raise $20 million on Wall Street. They sold the bonds in about 30 minutes, and we're done. And then we took that money, had built a beautiful campus in the Central Business District of Los Angeles. And then the population was growing, and we built another school in an area called Watts, also in Los Angeles. And then we're building a third school. In the process of doing that, when, as the ambassador said, His Excellency Nana Addo Kufuor, then he was candidate. He visited Los Angeles. They hosted him in one of my school auditoriums, and they told him I was the founder of the school, and he couldn't believe it. So he kept asking me. He first asked me, would you consider coming back to Ghana to help me change the education system when, God willing, I become the president? And I said, Your Excellency, can I talk to you later? He said, no, I want you to, first of all, he said, I want to commend you. And then he asked me about coming back to Ghana. And I said, Your Excellency, of course, I'll give you the thoughts. At that time, he was candidate. I said, I'll give you the thoughts, and I'll think through it. And then I went home thinking. On my way home that day, I was thinking. I said to myself, I almost did not go to high school. I was able to go because my younger brother sold some pigs that he was raising in our village. And with the pigs' money, I was able to go. Now I find myself in Los Angeles. I have 200 workers, predominantly white, Black Americans, with some Ghanaians. And somebody is asking me to come back to Ghana to help me change the education system, and especially to do free senior high school. Make sure high school is free, just like it's in America. And then I began to reflect, thinking about all the friends of mine who were not fortunate enough to have a brother selling his pigs so that they could go to school. All the friends of mine who unfortunately did not make it in life because they didn't have the opportunity that I have, the opportunity that was given to me by a younger brother. And I said to myself, just for this, if this man determined to change the fortunes of the poor, to open the doors of senior high school education to people like my schoolmates who were not able to make it, then it's worth going back to Ghana, and it's worth helping him to bring about the transformation that he wants to bring about. But it was a great leap of faith, because at that time he had not won the elections. But I said to myself, I also have to take a risk. I have to go, and I have to run for parliament in my constituency. And then when I go to parliament, hopefully he will remember me, and he will give me the opportunity to serve the country. So that's exactly what I did. I came to Ghana, did all the campaign, won the primaries with about 72% of the votes. Something that people thought was impossible, because some people kept reminding me that, oh, Ghanaian politics is very different from that of America, and it's not easy to win here for the first time. But I hired a consultant who did a survey for me. I knew I was going to win. The good news for me is that my opponent thought I was going to lose. So I was able to use strategies that will enable me to win the elections. And I won the primaries, move on to general elections. And of course, Kusumtwi is a safe seat for MPP. So I also won that. And I believe after, I think it was close to the Christmas day, and I was coming to Accra. And the president was also coming to Accra, and I met him at the Kumasi VIP reception. I said, "Hey, you are here." And then he said, "I thought you had gone back to America after election." I said, "Now I'm still here." And I jokingly said, "Mr. President, I'm waiting for you." That evening, I got a call that the president wants to consider me as a deputy minister, and that I should get ready and get prepared. And long story short, I am the Deputy Minister of Education in Ghana. And you see, our education system, even though it's more robust than the other West African countries, but I always tell myself, I don't want us as a nation to place ourselves in the African mediocrity trap. And my definition of that is that we always want to compare ourselves to Sierra Leone, and we look at Togo and we say, wow, Ghana is a great country. Go to Togo and see. Recently, before the lockdown and before the shutdown of the local air service, I boarded a flight from Kumasi and we landed at the Kotoka International Airport, and there were some guys behind me, and they were talking and giggling and laughing. And I wanted to just eavesdrop and see what they were talking about. And I heard one of them say, "Wow, Ghana, we are blessed. Look at our domestic airports. Look at the airports. This is more beautiful than the international airport of Niger." And they were laughing and they were happy. They were comparing themselves to Niger, and I could see the excitement. But I said to myself, of course, I couldn't go and talk to them, but I said to myself, this is Africa mediocrity trap. Why are you not comparing yourself to United Arab Emirates? Why are you not looking at the Dubai airport and saying to yourself, oh my God, we can do better? That is not to say that we haven't done a bit better, better than other countries, but we can do more. It is that kind of hope and that kind of image that I want people to have when we talk about Ghana. First of all, you say that, yeah, we've done something, but we are nowhere close to where we could have been. When you look at the fact that in 1960, the per capita income of South Korea was around $158. Ours was around $189. And then what happened to us? Recently, South Koreans came to, with their Exim Bank people and some university professors came to the Ministry of Education. They were here to actually help get us a loan to build the Eastern University. And interestingly, when they met with us, they showed us 3 graphs. It was a short presentation. And the first graph was the per capita income of Ghana and South Korea in 1960. And of course, we were better than them. Then the South Koreans were showing us this. And then they asked us, why do you guys think, and then of course, when they showed the 1960, they also showed 2000, they were showing the 2018 per capita income. Of course, it was, you can't compare. They are way ahead of us. And then before they showed the third graph, they asked us, why do you guys think, what is the reason why economically we are better than you? We are not smarter than you. And we are not saying we are better human beings like you. But why is it that in 1960 you were better off and today we are way better than you? Of course, as a Ghanaian, as a Deputy Minister for Education, chairing the meeting at the time, I was scratching my head in shame that somebody will come to your country and ask you, why am I better than you? Then we couldn't find the reason, and they showed us the third graph. The third graph was a gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana and South Korea compared. In a plain language, gross tertiary enrollment measures the percentage of the youth between 18 to 23 years who are in some kind of tertiary education as we speak. And the gross tertiary enrollment ratio of Ghana is 17%. Actually, it used to be 16.19 when they were talking to us. Now, approximately 17%. South Korea is 93.6. And then they said, this is why we want to come here and help you improve your education system, move the vast majority of your people to the tertiary level, make the tertiary level education relevant to the needs of your country. And when you do that, then you can catch up with us. After that meeting, I said to myself, I would never want my grandson or my granddaughter to sit in a meeting 60 years from now with South Koreans for them to ask them a similar question like this. I was fiercely determined that I would put all my expertise at the disposal of the minister, the president, to make sure we can transform the fortunes of our country through education. In the 21st century, if you look at all the things that bring about transformation in any nation, it's research proving that it is education. And when you look at our education system, you always have to look at three critical things. And the first thing is access. The second one is quality. And the third is relevance of the education system. So when you look at Ghana, in terms of access, in terms of opening up the floodgates of education to the vast majority of our people, we've done very well at the basic level. Primary and junior high, we've done quite well. Primary school, much better. But when you move to junior high to from junior high to high school, we've not done a very good job. The vast majority of our talented youth from poor backgrounds has been sitting at home for lack of opportunity. Transition rate from junior high to high school was approximately 50% when we took over power. And when President Kufuor left, he was able to have brought it up to about 36%. So 8 years under NDC, in spite of their, what you may call their best efforts, only grew the enrollment ratio by 14%. So the free senior high school, as we implement it, is changing the dynamics in terms of the gross tertiary enrollment ratio at the senior high school level. Now we are close to 70%, and we are making progress. If you look at this, after 4 to 8 years, we are going to go to about 90%. Now, when your secondary gross enrollment ratio has gone up, that is when the tertiary gross enrollment ratio will go up. But you don't only promote access and think that the transformation of your country will become a reality. You have to look at the quality aspect of the education system. If you open the floodgates of education to all, from senior high school, from primary school to junior high to senior high school, all the way to university, and you are still using rote memorization in the classrooms, and people have to, in the Ghanaian context, we call that chew, pour, pass, and forget. But I call it chew, pour, fail, and be forgotten, because
okay, a point of order, Doc. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you bring your set your camera? We can see your face now. We couldn't see your face.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so now you can see your face. Thank you. Now, secondly, I understand more people want to join in. We reached a capacity of 100. So they want to get more people want to join. So, Gloria, what do you have to do?
Okay, so
sorry for the interruption.
The people on here should remain on this call. A new code will be sent out for the excess people to listen in.
Please, it has been shared already. We have shared a new code, so please, those that are here, tell your chapter members who are still trying to join. I can see there are a lot of people waiting behind this call to try and go back to their whole pages. There's a new ID that has been shared. You can join and then listen in there. But remember, tell them to change their IDs, their names, to their surname and their chapter. That is very important. Thank you. And thank you, Echi, for the reminder.
Okay, so
please kindly post the ID at the chat page so that we can share it. Please post the ID on the chat page so we can share it.
Okay, I will post it here. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, my apologies. So you can continue.
No problem. So you see, when you want to transform an education system, you have to look at access. Ghana has done very well, especially under Nana Danko Kufuor. Our senior high school access has improved tremendously, which from next year is then going to impact our gross tertiary enrollment ratio. Because you cannot improve your gross tertiary enrollment ratio when your secondary enrollment ratio is about 50%. That will not, because the vast majority of the students, unfortunately, who take our WASI exams do not do well. And then that is why I talk about pupil, fail, and be forgotten. Because only about 30% are able to transition from pass, only about 30% able to pass the WASI. 70% don't do well. So after you do access, you also have to look at quality. And one of the most important aspects of quality education is when you provide counseling to students, when you change the way teachers teach and the way students learn, which means you have to provide quality professional development. You have to also change how you recruit and train your teachers and how you bring people in to become teachers. So if you look at all the measures that have been taken, the reforms that have been done under Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, we are tackling the issue of quality head on. The first thing that the president did when we came to power was to authorize us to change the number of years it takes for someone to prepare to become a teacher. So as I speak with you now, it used to be, now it's 4 years of preparation, but it used to be 2 years of classroom work and 1 year practicum. And that is how you become a teacher. And now it has changed. The last 2 years, the second year students now in colleges of education are all pursuing a 4-year degree, a Bachelor of Education. And that is the minimum requirement you're going to need to get into the classroom, which means that we have improved the quality of the person, the expertise of the person that is sitting in front of the students. And consequently, you are able then to improve outcomes. If you look at the program for international student assessment, PISA, the international assessment that are done by most...
Sorry to interrupt again, Doc, I'm sorry. I think you need to set your camera properly, otherwise we are just looking at your teeth.
Oh,
it's better.
It's better now.
It's better now.
Okay,
No, calm down a bit.
I
think you should put it on a book or something.
Yes, let me see this. I'll do that.
Yeah, this is better, much better.
Well, the thing is, right now, the lapis already come, them be fucking expensive.
It's better. This is better.
Let me put something there.
Excellent.
If I can put it.
This is better. Right now it's okay. Where you are now is okay.
It's better?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you look
secondly, this is to Gloria. Other people are saying they can't get on the second. So Doc, you're very, very popular because this is our 4th talk and we've never even had 100 people. And now we have 200 plus. So I think what you can do is to record and later play to your members. Okay.
Okay, I'm recording as well.
Yes. For those who are not able to join, shouldn't get frustrated. You can join. You can play it to them later. Put it on the various platforms.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So sorry that this will be my last interruption.
But no problem. Anytime.
I want to see your face.
Yeah. Okay, so when we talk about education reform and using education to transform the fortunes of your country, you have to look at access, quality, and relevance. I think I've talked about access and what we are doing. Then we are talking about quality. But in terms of quality, it's not just the teaching and learning materials. It's not just bringing books to the classroom. You also have to look at the quality of the teacher who is going to deliver the instruction. And that is why the education preparation has now been changed from 2 years plus 1 year practicum to now 4 years of quality instruction, so that teachers will come out ready and prepared to do a better job for the rest of the population. And as I indicated earlier, if you look at the program for international student assessment, or PISA, that's international exams that are administered to some developing countries, what you see is that in countries that do well, their middle school students who take the exams are taught by university graduates. And our students are with 4-year degree. Our students were being taught by people with 2 years and 1 year. So in spite of their best efforts, you had not equipped them with all the requisite knowledge that they need in order to do well in the classroom. If somebody is teaching mathematics in primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, all the way to junior high school, and after junior high school, they only did 2 years. That 2 years did not give them the opportunity to be fully engrossed in the content, the mathematics, and all the other subjects that they needed to learn. And in addition, then look at pedagogy. That is the way they are going to teach. So 2 years was woefully inadequate. Now we have 4 years. And after that, you have to do 1 year where you are just looking at working under a master teacher. So when you look at 5 years of preparation, it's going to place us in a situation where we'll be able to improve the quality of learning. But also you have to look at the infrastructure. The environment where the student learn needs to be improved. And if you come to Ghana now, the government has a program looking at actually getting rid of dilapidated classrooms. There are buildings that were falling apart left and right. Get Fund is now developing infrastructure at that level. And you see, one of the things, and I want you as students to take away from, is that when you dream big and begin to look at doing the impossible, great things happen. Because of the profound vision of the president, focus on transforming education, great ideas have been brought to the fore to make it possible for the transformation to happen. You see, whoever thought that we could increase enrollment into senior high school by over 100,000 in 1 year? It wasn't going to be possible. When we came, the total enrollment in high school across the country was about 800,000. Now it's 1.2 million. How did we accommodate all these people? It came from the idea of what we now call in Ghana double track. In the US, it was called year-round schools. When I went to California, the first year that I was hired to become a teacher, it was because they were changing the education system, making high school 4 years instead of 3, and they did not have the facilities. So they introduced year-round schools, which meant the facility, the existing facility, without building additional ones, were being leveraged to bring in more students. And that's what they did. And the year-round school concept, or what we call double track, is now all over the world. There are different places. In fact, in developed countries, they use it more. They're even developing countries. Their goal is that if we want to be, make sure everybody goes to school, why don't we find innovative ways of making sure everybody has a place to sit and everybody can be taught by a teacher and to move the system forward? So yes, you have to look at the infrastructure, the environment, teaching and learning materials, which we are making a huge investment in, and then begin to look at how students are taught. Are the students just going to be in their seats and the teacher at the sage on stage, the wisest person in the room, dispense knowledge to them? They store it in their in their textbooks by taking notes, then store it in their heads, and then on the day of exam, pour it on a paper, and then you are hailed as the smartest kid the world has ever seen. That is not the kind of education that will transform or has transformed the fortunes of any nation. And Ghana will not be the first one where we can just do rules memorization and we are doing well. Recently, I visited a school and I spoke with the children. And you know, when you are speaking and you are telling them about the fact that you were in America, you were building schools, they are so super excited. There's a school where after I finished, the kids were saying, can you give us autograph? I didn't know Ghanaian kids like autograph, but Master Anglican school, the kids were saying, can you give us autographs? But you know, interestingly, in all the schools, after I finished talking, and you ask them, do you have a question for me? The place is silent. You won't see anybody raising their hands. And I say to myself, wow, we have tamed the children. We have not empowered them to be assertive, to even ask questions of somebody that I believe they admire, to even find out, so how did you get to America? So it speaks to the fact that something needed to be done about our education system. And led by the Minister for Education, we now have a new curriculum at the pre-tertiary level. We finished primary 1 to primary 6. Now we're moving on to another one for junior high school. And our goal is that we'll create a classroom environment where students are empowered to ask questions and express their opinions, where teachers are accepting of those opinions, so that a teacher can leave a classroom and can feel like, wow, today I learned something from my students. And if you're going to do that, how can you cane the children and whip them into submission? You cannot be whipping children into submission and caning them left and right and expect them to then volunteer to offer their ideas and ask you questions. They are afraid. And teachers should understand that when you do education psychology, it tells you that when children are afraid, they can't learn at the highest level possible. So when you look at in education what we call the Bloom taxonomy, you have to have teachers teaching at the highest level possible. Now, the new Bloom's taxonomy says that if you are asking questions about how, why, when, that is the lowest level of learning, is comprehension. That's the lowest level of learning. So if our WIC exams and our BC exam lend itself to that, we are not teaching and learning and assessing in a qualitative environment, an environment that will ensure that the students who come out of the school system will transform our fortunes for us. You have to begin to look at, I always give the example that if you are teaching about pollution and if you want the children to understand pollution and the effects of pollution and other things very well, you see, I'm not saying don't give them the basics, but you have to move on from the comprehension to what is called creation. In the new Bloom's taxonomy, or those who are doing education, there's something called the Webb's Depth of Knowledge, or DOKs. And the level 4 of the Webb's Depth of Knowledge also talks about if the children are creating, then they are learning at the highest level possible. So at the highest level possible, a teacher teaching pollution should ask the students, for example, to come together in groups of, let's say, 4 and design a city or create a city without pollution. And you're going to see the children thinking and building solar cars and having solar homes and talking about great things that they can do to build a city without pollution. And that is the highest level of learning. And then you're also going to give the children the opportunity to really bring to the fore their talents. What we are doing in Ghana at this time, which the minister has proposed that we need to begin to look at and change, is the idea that you have students who are taking something like a visual arts and home economics and other things. And I always pity my nephews who are doing visual arts. In every school that I go to, they seem to tell me that they are the ones who are not too smart. And I say to myself, children who can look at your face and draw you, children who can draw cars, they can imagine and create. They are the ones that we are saying are not the smartest, all because they can memorize. Creative people invariably cannot memorize, unless you're talking about those who are actors and can memorize their lines. For the most part, the most creative and talented people, those who are gifted and talented, they create things, they design things, they bring innovation to the fore. They are not the ones that can stand in front of you and just memorize fast to you. I visited All Nations University in Koforidua last year, and the students had done an exhibition, and I went there to see. These were high school students who were using the campus of the university during the vacation. They had done a science exhibition, and I went there to see them. And one student had designed a robot that he believes can enter places of disaster, and it will be able to sense if a living thing is buried under the debris of a disaster. And I was super impressed. I kept asking him questions. The last question I asked him was, what course are you doing in high school? And he said, I'm doing visual arts. And I was there with the dean of the School of Engineering, and I asked him, Prof, you want to tell me that this young man will never be an engineer in Ghana because he's doing visual arts? And he said, unfortunately, this young man will never be an engineer in Ghana. And I said to myself, something needs to change. Our creative minds are not creating for us because we have put a barrier in front of them. And we have told them that we are not going to give you the chance. And in as much as you are creative, engineering doesn't belong to you. However, after high school, and if you're able to go to the university and do BA Arts, you can go by the roadside and draw and sell it. But you are not going to be part of our creative energies and talents, people who will change the fortunes of this country. Now, so the quality aspect of the education is critical. The way we bring talent to the fore is critical. We have programs in the United States, for example, called Gifted and Talented Education. And this, in this field, what you do is that you look for children with creative abilities. They are identified by teachers, students with leadership potential, students who you can watch and they will tell their friends, let's do this, and everybody will follow them. They have leadership qualities. You have students who will be drawing airplanes. These are gifted students. And then you have those who can dance, who can sing. They are talented. The gifted are the ones that we say are smart. And the talented are the ones who bring some talent to the classroom. In the United States, after the third grade, they assign these students either to special schools or to special classrooms and work with them. And these are the people who become the great minds that you see in that country, because they catch them young and direct and guide them. And one day they become the inventors in the country. All that I'm saying is that we need to focus on the quality of the learning space and the individuals that we are working with, free their talent up, and then begin to look at the relevance of the education system. So that would be the last aspect of my talk in terms of the education. And then with the permission of the ambassador, I will add a few things and then I'll wrap up and to give you the opportunity to ask me questions. Now, the relevance is key because you see, we have had a goal in this country that about 60% of our university students should be in science-related fields. But it's quite interesting that we are not making any effort for us to get the 60%. We have written speeches from the Ministry of Education for presidents to talk about, every president have talked about 60% when they are addressing in the technical field, in the STEM fields, when they are addressing university graduations. And we've said it over and over. But what we have not told ourselves is that if about 20-25% of the students are doing science, how do they become 60% of the student population when they go to the university? If you want to do that, you want to open the floodgates of science and technology, then you have to have an access course where students who did not do science have about a year to take a certain number of science courses. And if they can pass the placement or entry exam for engineering, they can become engineers. And if they can do the same for medical sciences, they can go into medicine. A nephew of mine is now a medical doctor in the US, and he did sociology. He just, after the first degree, did 1 year intensive course in biology and chemistry. And today he's a doctor. I remember when he went for his interview into medical school, they were excited about a sociologist becoming a doctor because they said, you understand the human being that you are going to treat because you understand how human beings behave as a sociologist. So we have to begin to open the floodgates of education and how to make the education relevant by saying that even if we don't have the number of people in senior high school who can do science and STEM-related courses, science, technology, engineering, mathematics-related courses, let us be innovative in how we bring them in and recruit them and get the numbers right. Because you need to have a certain number of engineers for your country to transform. And if you don't have it, in as much as you try, in as much as you may have a high gross tertiary enrollment ratio, it's going to be difficult. You need to have a certain number of doctors per 10,000, 100,000 population. And to have it, you need to structure your education system. You truly need to create a pipeline, as I call it, from kindergarten all the way to senior high school and beyond to bring these people on board. So as I speak with you, I'm building a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics school in Bosomtwe. I have set as for myself a goal of producing 100 medical doctors in that district within the next 10 years, if I'm still there as MP, and then to do another 100 engineers within 10 years' time. I think it's a modest goal which is doable, I've started getting some of my students becoming doctors, and I'm going to get some of them becoming engineers through the public school and the private school system. But I felt strongly that in order for this goal to be realized and going beyond in my constituency, I have to build a school that will be an example to the country and to the world. And I started that venture of Bosomtwe STEM Academy. There's a school, when I was growing up, the school was still there. When I became the MP, the roofing was so bad, the chief of the town told me, can you help me re-roof part of this building so that when it rains, it doesn't become like a swimming pool in the middle of the class. And when I saw it, and I told the chief, Nana, I'm not going to just re-roof this. I'm going to pull this building down, and I'm going to build a STEM academy here, the first of its kind in the country. I'm going to make it so unique that people will come from around the country to see the school, and we can bring teachers here to get training as to how they can teach STEM. And I began the journey a year ago. Today, as I speak with you, through various sources of funding, the school is about to be completed. I'm grateful to the Minister for Roads and Highways who have awarded a contract for them to tar the streets. We are actually going to create streets there, beautiful ones, tar them. I want it to become a school like better than a school in America. I want people to begin to know that everything is possible. You see, the easiest thing I could have done was to even pull that building down and just build a new one for them. But even if I had re-roofed the school, they would have praised me for it. My people have been so happy because before I came, the building was leaking and I've been able to fix the roof. But I challenged myself that I don't know where the money is going to come from. But I think this is doable, and that is going to be done in Bosomtwe. So we have a beautiful layout for the school. I was able to relocate the existing school buildings there. I relocated at the edge at a part of the building, the lots, part of the plots, sites, and they have new school buildings now. I talked to my friend who supported me and donated money so that I can buy beautiful desks from US. And I just wanted to give them the case, a taste of how is it to sit on a nice, beautiful desk and study. The desks are in now, on time. And we have 2 beautiful classroom blocks done. I will have a 2-story huge library block and STEM center under construction. Through the government's initiative of 1 million per constituency, when our money was given to us, and I decided that with the support of my DC, we will transform the school even further. So as I speak with you, the grants have been broken, a science block is under construction, and an auditorium is under construction. And this is a school that is beginning from primary 6. And we are hoping to have a partnership with Ghana Education Service so that I can go all the way to senior high school. We are looking for funding to put smart boards in every classroom. My thinking is that if I close your eyes and drop you there, and you see the buildings for the first time, you think that you are not in Ghana. But big things can happen in Ghana. You don't have to ask yourself how. You always have to ask yourself why. Why is it that this is important to the fortunes of my people? When Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo talks about Ghana beyond aid, he's painting a picture of a nation that will become so prosperous that we will not have to go and beg anybody, and that we can take care of our own affairs. And was he not prophetic? Look at when COVID-19 hit. The countries that you have gone to borrow from are the ones in crisis. So if you don't create a prosperous nation, a country that goes beyond aid, you will never be able to change the fortunes of your people. And one day South Koreans will come, and you may be, those of you are coming back to Ghana, you may be sitting in the office and they will ask you the same question that they asked me. I want you to dream big because it works. You see, people were asking Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, where are you going to get the money from to do senior high school? How can you put up all these buildings? He said, the why is so profound. The children from poor backgrounds should go to school, and therefore I will do it. You know, let me tell you how we found the money to do the school buildings. all around the world, especially in America and other countries, there's something that is called bonds, community bonds and other things. And when they want to build schools, they don't wait till all the money comes in. They issue bonds, municipal bonds for school district, state bonds for states, where they're able to sell bonds, realize a certain amount of money and build the schools. As their tax revenue come in over a period of time, then they pay down the debt. And Nana Addo Dankwa knew he needed 1.5 billion to boost the infrastructure at the primary, junior high, and high school. So he authorized that, why don't you do what Americans and other people do? We know that Get Fund is going to give us some money over the last 10 years. Take 45% of that money, which will be equal to 1.5 billion as a loan. Mortgage it, in a way, leverage it, and say to yourself that you are taking 45%. Within the next 10 years, you have 55% to work with every year. And when the Get Fund revenue is coming in through our taxes, pay it down. A new idea, 1.5 billion, something that we could never have gotten from any nation, became possible because his why was so profound. His why was that we have to. Why is it that students from poor backgrounds are not accessing education? And why should I sit here as a president and think everything is fine? When that poor child growing up at Wansamiri is so talented, but because the parent doesn't have money, his talents will not be to his benefit or to accrue to the benefit of the nation. And the president always says that, I don't know the child that is going to bring an invention that will transform this country. And maybe that child may come from some obscure village in somewhere, Ghana. And if I don't give him the opportunity for secondary education, his talents will not be brought to the fore. I want you to know that everything is possible. If you don't believe it, when you come to Ghana, come and visit Osei STEM Academy. God willing, after this COVID-19 issues, we are going to be able to open the school. And when you visit the school and begin to see the paved and tarred roads there, and begin to see the beautiful buildings, you're going to ask yourself, how was this possible in Ghana? And it was possible because I felt strongly that the why is it that poor children don't have quality education? The response to that was to do something different and to do something profound. I want you to know that dreams can come true. You have to dream big. You have to read certain books though. If you read Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, you begin to see how some people succeeded. The moment has to be right. COVID-19 should give you an impetus to do something that you never imagined you could do. Because now we have to begin to realize in this country that in times of distress, we can think and bring about new ideas. So as you look at COVID-19, the tragedy and the challenges associated with this, I want you to look at the opportunity that it is bringing. KNUST students are now building a respirator. You go to Kumasi Technical University and they've come up with a new version, better version of a washing machine, which replaces the Veronica bucket. They have a pedal that you put your foot on and the soap will drop into your hands. After you want to rinse your hands, you step another pedal, the water will drop so that you minimize touching anything untoward. Out of tragedies come opportunities, but it depends upon what you are looking at. Some people are looking at challenges and they are, in America, they say they are having a pity party. They look at themselves and say, oh, Africa will never develop. That is what I hear people lambasting our leaders and talking about. Look at them, what are they doing? Oh, sometimes they have a point. But I'll tell you, when you spend so much of your time talking about what some people did not do, you may forget about what you can do and the opportunity that the situation is presenting to do. So when people ask me, oh, Ghana must be very difficult and challenging for you coming from America, I always tell them that in Ghana, I have a green field of opportunity to bring about transformation. In America, I had to look for a niche. I had to look for an area that nobody has occupied in order to bring about transformation, as I did with my schools. When I created a college prep program, and 85% of our students were prepared and were able to go to the university. In Ghana, you have a green field of opportunity. You don't need to find a niche. Opportunities are everywhere, but you have to have a mindset of opportunity and not problems. You have to begin to look at what can I do to change the fortunes of Ghana. And you have to think in the lines of a book that is what is written, a book by Seneca, a great author who wrote about, it starts with why. He talked about the infinite game. The infinite game is when you look at transformation within a context of doing something that is not about you, but about how you can change the fortunes of others. You begin something that may not end in your lifetime, but you know that it's going to lead to the transformation of the system that you find yourself in. You see, America transformed itself because at the time of independence, their vision was clear that they want to make sure that people can pursue happiness and make sure that everybody has a chance to transform themselves. You think about a nation who, at the time of independence, had slaves oppressing others, but they were looking at pursuit of happiness and making sure everybody become happy. It was an infinite game, a goal that they had set for themselves, a goal that did not begin, that was not going to begin and end with the founders of the country. The goal that was just about to start and lead to a serious transformation of their country. Beginning with slaves, son of a slave, grandson of a slave became a president of the country under Barack Obama, in the person of Barack Obama. Our infinite game and independence was not well established. Somehow as a country, we had a finite game, not infinite game. Our finite game was simple. We want to be independent and rid ourselves of the white man. We did. But what was it that we were going to do for the individuals? My father, who was uneducated at the time of independence in Ghana, didn't see himself being oppressed by anybody. In his village, he was doing his cocoa farms and the white man was not oppressing him. The oppression, of course, was felt by the educated elite who had been pushed to the side, and the white man was in charge. So the elite felt the oppression. The uneducated sometimes was glorifying the white man and saying that if you are going to look for God and you meet the white man, you return. So they didn't feel oppressed. Were we able to paint a picture for them as to the transformation we want them and their grandchildren and grandsons to have? Were we able to paint for them a picture of Ghana that is so prosperous that it will not go begging, so that we can rally them around that vision and transform our country forever? It's never too late to have a president who has begun an adventure. And that adventure is an infinite game. Prosperity to our people, building a robust middle class, making sure the vast majority of our people can free themselves from basic wants is possible. And the seeds are being sown by Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. And I tell people, it's not about politics. To me, I came to Ghana believing that I can use education as a platform for transformation. This president is doing something unique, and I tell you, irrespective of political affiliations, we open our minds and empower ourselves and look at what we can do. We can together transform this country. And that's why I was excited and I was surprised when I got a call from His Excellency, the Ambassador to the Republic of China, asking me to come and speak with him. He's a visionary leader, and no ambassador has ever asked me to do this, to address the students in his country. So when you support him and his deputy, they are going to do more for you and do more for us as a country. God bless you, and God bless our homeland Ghana, and God bless China where you are, so that you can also succeed there. Thank Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Gloria, you should open the micro so people can clap. This is inspiring.
Feel free to clap. Okay, muted that.
With the clap. With the clap.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the virtual clap.
Thank you very much. We have to go on.
Okay, please, let's, we'll have time for extra applause, maybe 2 minutes of virtual clapping at the end of the meeting. At this juncture, we would like to move on to Q&A. Your Excellency, when we heard we had this opportunity to meet you, we asked our members to sort of tell us what they would like to hear from you. So we received a sample of questions, and Ben Carson and I will take turns to ask those questions as we go on. So for the first one, our first question is, what is the state of technical and vocational education in Ghana?
That was my question.
Can you hear me now? The state of TVET. Very exciting as the transformation that is going on now, and the Minister for Education, Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh, in the field of TVET. The president's vision at the time we came to office was very clear. He charged the minister to ensure that TVET was transformed. In fact, he sent us to Germany while he was there. We met him there to look at schools and look at how TVET was being done there, to look at the Adutwum mode of teaching and learning, where students do not just sit in the classroom, but also go out to industry some number of days and look at how what they are learning in school is actually implemented. As a result of this visit and other stakeholder engagement that followed, the president approved a plan. And the plan was that all TVET institutions that are distributed across 17 ministries, from transport to local government to Ministry of Child Protection and Social Services, Gender, Child Protection and Social Services, all those ministries have schools, TVET schools, and Labor and Employment Relations have a number of TVET schools, and VTIs and ISIS are all under them. So the government directed, with the coordination of the senior minister, that all TVET institutions in the country has to be moved to the Ministry of Education. But when it gets to the Ministry of Education, it should not go to the Ghana Education Service. It should rather have its own agency. That is called the TVET Service. Under the TVET Service, there will be a Director General who will superintend over it. And in fact, all the TVET schools under the Ministry of, under Ghana Education Service should also be moved as well to this agency. So as I speak with you, there's a bill in Parliament under consideration, which may be passed any moment that we return. And that bill is going to allow us to have a TVET agency that will oversee the schools and also bring resources to the schools. In fact, as I speak with you, over $100 million has been invested in MVTIs. New tools are being acquired, and as I speak with you, workshops are being built across the country so that we can truly give them infrastructure and equipment that they need to do TVET the way it should be done. So TVET is being transformed. In fact, during my first year as a deputy minister, I was in charge of it, and I was doing senior high schools in addition. And the president directed that, given my load in senior high school, and also he will restructure, the minister should restructure the ministry in terms of responsibility of deputy ministers. So now we have a full-time deputy minister in charge of TVET. Madam Gifty Chum Ampofu is in charge, and she is spearheading TVET transformation in Ghana. So it's an area that we are keenly aware of its contributions, and the curriculum has also been changed under COTVET. Competency-based type of education is what they are utilizing. They have a competency-based system that will allow somebody to go to NVTI to progress all the way to the university, especially now that we have technical universities. The NVTIs and all the schools will actually dovetail into them, so that when students are going to TVET institutions, we can get our best and brightest to go. Invariably, people think that, oh, TVET is for those who are not smart. And that is not the case.
Those people that have raised their hands, where were they? Oh.
So what we are doing is to make TVET so attractive. COTVET is doing a certain Council for Technical Vocational and Training. COTVET, they are in charge at the regulatory agency. They're doing a fantastic job trying to demystify and take away the myths surrounding TVET, saying that for those who are not able to get into the grammar school, and those are the ones who go there. But when you remove the dead end situation and you make technical education as something that anybody can get into and get the training, go to work whilst you're at work. If you want to go to the university, you can go. When people begin to see that it's not a dead end situation, the best and the brightest will go there, because that is where we need them the most. Thank you. Hello?
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Please. My name is Bequin, and this meeting is very special to me because I also hail from Jachipram, so I'm your son, one way or the other.
Wow.
Yes. Thank you very much for this. I'll go on to the next question that Gloria was talking about. People want to know what efforts are being made to link our universities, research institutions, and national development agenda, or government policies for economic growth. That's my question.
Thank you, my brother. The thing is this, I talked about, and the question is spot on, because when I began my presentation, I talked about 3 things that you need to change your country through education: is to improve access, quality, and then relevance of the education system. The number of people that are going through the schools is good, but what you are teaching and how you are teaching it is as equally important. Sometimes we begin to look, okay, we are producing engineers, that's fine, and we need to producing medical doctors. We have to align and say, okay, we may need more people who can do coding and write software, and that is what you do in order to change your country. All the new universities that are being built now have some focus. If you talk about the university, and so many, they are doing engineering, environmental science, other things that we know are relevant to the needs of the country. And then the universities are also beginning to focus on courses that they think will relate directly to the development efforts of our country. So the relevance of the education system is key. But there's also something called 4 C's. 4 C's in education. The first one is collaboration. Collaboration is the skills you learn in your classroom. To begin to learn, how do we work together? If you cannot collaborate with people, you may be the most creative person, you'll not be able to bring skills out that will transform your country through education. Then you have to look at communication. If you cannot communicate the ideas that are in your head, you can use it to transform your country. Then you talk about creativity. If the new curriculum that we're implementing in Ghana now lends itself to creativity, in fact, we're doing creative arts as part of the curriculum. And then you look at critical thinking. So the 4 C's is something that we are emphasizing through the entire pipeline of the education system, where we have students who are creative, who are critical thinkers, who can communicate well, and who are collaborative workers down the line. And this is how you infuse this. These are the soft skills. You make sure this is implemented at every aspect of the education pipeline so that you can really get people into the world of work whose mindset is very different and who can bring about the transformation that has somehow eluded us for some time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So what we're going to do is this. We have questions asked, but I also see hands raised. So we would alternate. I would read a question and then we'll call on somebody who has his hands raised to ask a question. And please, let's be obedient and use wisdom as we ask our questions. Each person would have 30 seconds to ask a question. If you're taking more than 30 seconds, I'm sorry, but I will mute you. So please condense your question into 30 seconds. So Chefondeme from Beijing, please, you may unmute your mic and ask your question. And I'll be watching my time. Thank you.
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
I greet you from China. So as you started your speech, you said, oh, we should aim big. So we are aiming big. And we're comparing ourselves to German, US, China, and South Korea. As you mentioned, they all use their own language to teach the lay people. Even if the person is not picking up the international language, the person is able to develop his or her skills without being forced to learn another language to develop his skills. And here is the case that we are measuring smartness with learning English. And this, to me, I think is a no-no to develop our nation, in which we are not giving our people the opportunity, and we call our own vernacular and we beat people for that in school. So I don't know how this is going to work when our people don't even understand what they are doing and our language is thrown away, saying we're using it as vernacular. Thank you.
Okay, I get this question sometime, and my brother, I don't think when you went to China, you saw that you were deficient. You are competing very well with them, but you were taught in English. Within the short, medium term, there's no way we can develop a language that all of us will accept. Do you know Kwame Nkrumah proposed using tree in Ghana and it caught hell? No, you can't do it. We have different languages now. So what do? Do we wait till we get one universal Ghanaian language before we transform our country? A few years ago, we had the whole world being headed by a Ghanaian. May the Lord bless his soul and may he rest in peace. Mr. Kofi Annan. He didn't find himself deficient because he was not taught in his language. I think at this time, what sometimes I understand from my experience in the US is that we are not teaching English properly. We are not teaching English as a second language. To us, there's a different approach and strategies that you use in teaching when the people you are teaching has a second language, with their second language is English, and English is not their first language. There's something that we call in America sheltered instruction, for example. We are taught to slow down, to enunciate the word clearly, so that somebody whose second language is English will understand. If you go to United States of America, the Spanish-speaking students are being taught in English, and they are doing so well. They are blossoming. Yes, we may have that as a challenge, but if we wait for us to have that, when there are no plans to have it, when it's very difficult to have it, let me tell you, Ghana Education Service started the native tongue movement. And in Accra, you enter a classroom and there are 17 languages in the classroom. Whose language do you use? If the majority of the students in that school are Kusasis, do you say that you're going to teach them in Ghana and it's Ghana their language because they are in Accra? English becomes the unifying force. But we have to learn how English is taught to those whose second language is English so that they can grasp it properly. and grasp it well. And then you can use the local language where it is possible. You can use it as a point of differentiation of instruction. Differentiation of instruction is when you are teaching a class and you are breaking it down to the level that different people will understand. So if you happen to have a student who is struggling with English and you can speak that student's language, you go to him and say, Kojo, this is how it's done. You speak to the kid in Chi for them to grasp it in mathematics so that the English doesn't become the reason why they will not understand that concept. So you can use it to differentiate instruction and to do what is called in education scaffolding. You are creating a scaffold for the person to move up and get to a point that they can join the rest of the class. I believe that it's the reason why our education system is not up to where it is not because of English. We may not have taught English well. If you look at experts like Krishna, who are experts in second language acquisition, they will tell you there are different ways of teaching English. In fact, the Krishna study has shown that if you want children to grasp English fast, in the classroom, there should be zero anxiety. And he says it's this way, that when a child is born into a home, you don't sit him down and teach him ABC. By the time you know, they pick up the language and they are saying mama, dada, and they are saying all those things. And even if they don't go to school, they will speak the language because there's zero anxiety in that environment. The mom is not saying, why did you say mama as Mimi? So I'm going to beat you up. As a result, they acquire the language fast. So we have not done the methodology right for us to quickly acquire the language together with our own languages and use that to transform ourselves. We can't wait till the day that we get a universal African language. And I don't think I know people speak to this from a Pan-Africanist point of view and say that a white man is oppressing us because we're using his language. We can be the white man in his own game by mastering the English and even doing better than him. Professor Buzia was teaching in Oxford, and he was better at the subject than those who were there. So, my brother, you have a point. But to the extent that we are not teaching the English well, you are right. But I don't think that because of the English, we will not be able to develop. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. There are so many response questions coming in the background. But as we wait on that, I will go ahead to ask this next question. And that is, how are we monitoring and evaluating the progress of implemented educational policies? And what is the approach that will allow for quick corrections to hiccups and loopholes?
Thank you so much for this question. Yes, we have the minister actually set up a mechanism to do just what you are talking about. In fact, there's an organization called the Big Win Philanthropy, and Big Win has given us funding to do that monitoring and evaluation. They're evaluating the curriculum implementation. As I speak with you, they only stopped because of the COVID-19. They were on the field collecting data to come back and report to us. In fact, we set up the National Reform Secretariat, which reports to the minister. And at the National Reform Secretariat, we have various experts who are looking at various aspects of the curriculum, who are actually tracking the entire curriculum reform and education reform, because we're also reforming other agencies. The NIB is being reformed, the National Inspectorate Board, and then you have the NACA, National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, and NTC, National Teaching Council, who are doing the teacher licensing and prescribing professional development. All these agencies' work are being coordinated by the National Reform Secretariat with funding from DFID, Big Win, and other entities that are giving us the funding to monitor, evaluate, and look at where we can bridge the gap quickly so that the reform implementation will give us exactly what we intended to get from it at the beginning.
Great, thank you so much. William Guangzhou.
Hello, thank you. Mr. Minister. Quickly, I want to ask about ICT. Not long ago, we saw teachers or a teacher having to draw, let's say, a computer on a board for students because they perhaps have never seen a computer before, and they are supposed to be taught computing and ICT. So I want to know what the ministry is doing or the government is doing, especially in our rural areas, even as of now that even internet services don't seem to be well advanced in those places. And last, was just like the university, where irrespective of what
Yeah, Honorable William, I think your 30 seconds rule is up. So, Doctor, will go on to answer the first question. Thank you.
ICT and education, very fascinating, especially in this COVID-19 era. ICT and education is something that is so critical. You see, when you talk about ICT in education, you should look at ICT as a learning tool as well as a subject to be learned. So when you talk about as a learning tool, you're talking about how are you using ICT in the classroom. How do you have projectors? In other places, you'll be looking at projectors, you'll be looking at computers, a whole gamut of technology that needs to be there for learning to be facilitated. Websites with content that students can use, connectivity issues. These are the general ICT ecosystem before you look at learning ICT itself. So I'll take learning ICT. The curricular reform that we've done has introduced computing into our curriculum. And in addition to that, we also have various coding classes that are going on, which invariably is an after-school effort by schools. At the senior high schools level, we have what is called Math and Science for Sub-Saharan Africa. It came from a World Bank funding, and through that World Bank funding, about 42 schools, for example, were given top-of-the-line technological tools, projectors, smart boards, everything that you can think of, and these schools are equipped with them. We are computerizing library service at the library board. We have a very energetic young man, Mr. Sian, who is doing a fantastic job, and schools and libraries across the country are being transformed so that they can be equipped with computers and they can automate functions there in the library. So the ecosystem in terms of ICT is also being transformed. But you see, when you look at the learning aspects of it, then you begin to look at how you use it. Each one of them have their own kind of demands. As you said, yes, there are challenges, but the Ministry for Communication is also doing a fantastic job. Many districts are getting a classroom set of computers in their various schools. Yes, it's not being done at the pace that we want it to be. And in fact, when you look at COVID-19 and what strategies other people use, you begin to see that when it comes to ICT and education, in Ghana, we're like crawling. Sometimes we are walking, and now we have to run. COVID-19 has taught us a lesson that we have to run. One level that has done very well is our universities. In spite of the challenges, they've been able to roll all their courses online. Some are using Moodle, others using other platforms, and they've moved all their courses online, something that we thought would never happen in this country. Can you imagine if Legon, after this experience, is able to get about 30% of their students to be online? You are changing the face of university education. But we need to make the investments going forward. I know there's a digital literacy program through the hard work of the finance minister. We are working on getting tablets in the hands of students. And also teacher training is a very critical component of it. So for the first time in the history of our country, Ghana Education Service has set some days aside for professional development as part of the school's calendar, something that is done in America and other places. There are days set aside where students don't come to school, but teachers go, and when they go for training. And Ghana Education Service have done that. And now they have professional development days. And some of these days are dedicated towards technology learning and other things that the teachers need to do. So yes, when we talk about ICT as part of the ecosystem for learning, when you talk about the use of Google Classroom, Google Hangout, Google Chat, Google Meet, all that technology ecosystem, that is now being used by some top tier private schools in Ghana. As I speak with you, GIS is fully online. ICS is fully online. Their students are learning through these platforms. But you see, we have as a nation have to begin to confront the digital divide. The digital divide, the gap between the technology haves and have not just in our schools, and not just in our community centers, not just in our libraries, but in our homes. And that is where I talk about opportunity. Can you imagine if we can embark on one household, one computer, and make sure that every household in Ghana, as they buy TV, also begin to see that we need to buy a computer? Can we begin to imagine finding different ways of making the computer cheaper? For example, if you look at the fact that the Kofi Annan ICT Center has now Kofi Annan Indian IT Center, they have developed an operating system based on the Linux platform, and that operating system is virtually free. That will save you a lot of money when you are building PCs in Ghana. When you put the Nyansapor operating system on your computer, it comes with application software, which does the same thing as PowerPoint and Excel and all those Office. They have similar software done. And if you put the Nyansapor operating system on your computer, you have reduced the cost substantially. Can you imagine if you can partner with a telco and tell that telco, can you also give everybody who buys this computer a voucher, provided they will get internet service from you? You are finding creative and innovative ways of reducing the cost of the computer in such a way that you build it in Ghana, you are creating jobs, of course, and then it's going to be cheaper. So innovative approaches to doing things can help us bridge this divide. And sometimes it's not about just what the government can do, but just what we as individuals with the support of government can do. And in fact, if the government also to come up with a voucher through the Ministry of Communication, then all of a sudden the price of that device is going down substantially, and every person, average person, can afford it. And if you put a computer in every household, you are going to grow the GDP of this country. You are going to change the education system of this country. So there's so much to say, but I'll end here. And I'll tell you that ICT transformation is something that is going to happen more after COVID-19.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. Please, like we said, there is another group of people with about 91 participants there that are listening in from Sam's ID. And they also have other questions. So before we go to our next questions that we have, the set of questions, we will let Sam come in to ask one of the questions that some of the members they are asking. But before that, since you answered the question about we having one common language, people have suggested that maybe the government should consider getting something like a local dictionary. For instance, let's say a tree that will, a tree dictionary that will have the translation of most of the words that we use, especially when it comes to, let's say, a science dictionary or something. So I will invite Sam to come in and then ask one question from his platform. Thank you. Sam, you are up.
Okay, thank you. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, you are loud.
Okay, thank you. So we are 91 here and we are still connected. This is from Ejumazi, Honorable Ejumazi. And this is the question. Do we anticipate a new curriculum based on the Ghanaian setting taking into consideration our problems around us, like China is doing, without relying on other countries' curriculum? Thank you.
The new pre-tertiary curriculum that was launched just this academic year answers that question perfectly. It's Ghanaian made, targeted towards solving our challenges, making sure we have creative thinkers, collaborative learners, people who will look at our age-old problems with a new set of eyes. People who feel empowered that, yes, it can be done. My brother, irrespective of what you do through curriculum, if you don't have a hidden curriculum that empowers people, for them to know that it's possible, they will just treat the work that they are doing as a textbook exercise. And they will not look at how do I take this into a real world and do some big things if you don't empower people. So yes, the new curriculum is just designed for that purpose. And we are in the process of moving on to the high school curriculum. And with that, I think we'll be able to do what he rightly pointed out, that we have to have a curriculum that helps us solve our problems. You know, there's something called the hidden curriculum. Those of you in education, they have heard of it. It's the curriculum that we don't, it's not part of our lesson plan, but we teach it. You see, when we ask students to read unanswered stories, I know some of you are fans of unanswered stories, and Tekuma and Aso and Anansi cultivate a maize farm, and when it's about harvest time, Anansi fixed his death and he's buried in the farm, and he consumed all the maize and leave out the family. This is not the kind of story you want children to read and feel empowered. Even though some may say, oh, it's a story, it's a lesson. We need to be able to have an Anansi who does great things, who doesn't trick his own family. An Anansi who is so versatile that he empowers the children to do better things. Recently, somebody brought a book to me at the Ministry of Education for me to review, because people want us to buy books. I took the book home and gave it to my, at the time, 10-year-old son who was born in the US. And he read the book, and I came in the evening and said, Daddy, let me tell you something about the book. The book reads very well, but I don't understand why 2 children were bitten by a mosquito in the mosquitoes in the story, and one of them died. The girl died, and the boy survived. Even right there, I don't understand why a girl should die and the boy will survive. But besides, Daddy, why should a child die in a book of fiction? Why couldn't somebody arrive on the scene, even at the last minute, to save the girl's life? As an American kid, he's talking about the American Superman. He's talking about somebody who arrives on the scene and make the impossible possible. We have to ensure that in our education system, we're empowering our children to understand that they can have a dream. And that is what I call the Ghanaian dream. It shouldn't be a Ghanaian nightmare. It shouldn't be like watching a Kumawood movie and knowing that once you begin, somebody will do something bad, and that person does something bad and he will die or will go insane and walk around naked in the town. It's too predictable. It ends in shame, but it has to end in praise. And for that to happen, you also have to build all that into the curriculum, the hidden curriculum aspect of the kind of books the children read. So selection of books for children is now a critical piece of the puzzle, because the books that children are reading is going to influence how they think. So it's not just about the language issue, it's also about how do I select books that will empower these children to believe in themselves that as Africans, they can do anything. Our children going to school should be able to read about Kofi Annan, read about Kwame Nkrumah, read about Dr. J.B. Dankwa and Buzi as part of our stories, and not just history, and get them empowered that these leaders were thinking about a great Ghana, and we can pick up from where they left off and change our country. That all should be part of the education system, and that is how you change the fortunes of your country. Thank you, madam. Oh, ma'am, master.
Thank you. The next question I'll take here is, There are only about 8 medical schools in China that have been accredited by the GMDC. There are over 30 other universities without accreditation. So what is going to be done about the remainder? Thank you.
You're talking about accredited in Ghana, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is something that is a tertiary education issue. If your leaders will pick it up and write to the Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, Prof. Yanka, and you can copy me on it, I'll follow up for you. It's something that we need to do. So it's something that I can advocate on your behalf because it's good for you and it's good for the country.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Sam, you can ask one more question from your side.
Okay, thank you. This is from Honorable Frank Motion. Okay, my question is, please, can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you. All right.
Okay, thank you. My question is that with the new model of teacher education for College of Education in Ghana called TEI, 5 public universities have been mandated to run the program. Now, why is it that some universities like KNUST for science and engineering are shifting from their core responsibility to run education programs? Same applies to UDS, UJ, but we have education universities like UCC and Uniba who can do that. Then the second question, my second question is that on the MPP manifesto promised to facilitate the provision of internet in SHS and universities, when is it going to start? Thank you very much.
Okay, let me pick the manifesto first. I'll tell you this, that if you go to senior high schools, we have plans, and even the universities there, it was recently announced, and before this COVID-19 came in, and plans are still ahead to make sure connectivity is available for free at high school and universities. It will happen because I think the telcos, we've been working on it for some time, and I believe that is going to be done. But the first question about universities, for example, KNUST. KNUST is doing science education. You know, in other countries around the world, even if you look at Teachers College in Columbia, in the US, New York, they may have Teachers College there, but they do other programs. Look at UCC. The vast majority of the students now probably are not students who are in education at the University of Cape Coast. They are doing other courses. You see, the rationale behind a place like University of Science and Technology, KNUST, doing education, is that they are producing a number of science students who want to teach. And with the College of Education, education courses being offered there too, in addition to the fact that they are supervising others, what it means is that if somebody does science, for example, Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, they can then go and do a Master's in Teaching, Master of Art in Teaching, or a postgraduate diploma in teaching on their own campus, and then move on to go and teach. So it comes in handy when you have those universities that are training other people, also offering education. So UDS have a number of courses that they are offering at the undergraduate level. All those students can then go to Graduate School of Education at UDS and take courses in education so that they can become teachers, professional teachers, so that they don't go and become non-professional and then struggle as to whether they have to go on study leave to go and get education. But somebody can just proceed UDS and get education after the regular bachelor degree in other subjects. So I don't think it's a bad thing. The only thing that I would say is that when it comes to universities with their core mandates in other in certain fields, all that we need to do is that a certain percentage of their graduates should be coming out of that core mandate. So they don't have a situation where you are at cross purpose with the vision and mission that set you up as an institution. So that is the only thing I would say. For example, if KNUST become 60% arts and education or other stuff, then it's bad. But if they can still maintain their core mission, and then they have this as complementary or supplementary activity, and it's actually complementary because the biochemistry student who wants to teach can just go and take an education course and they will do well. And they're also supervising colleges that are focused on science, because you see, they have the expertise in science to supervise those very well. So I don't think there's anything wrong as such. It's just how you manage it to the benefit of the country.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Gloria, let me say, come in. Thank you. We are going to take next question from here, but Fifi, you are next, but you didn't follow the rules. So I'm jumping to the National Judicial Committee Chairman, Honorable Maxwell. Please, you are next. Fifi, if you change your name to reflect the chapter, you are next after Honorable Maxwell. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc. I think I met you 3 years ago in All Nation University, and I was really inspired by your speech and your great aspiration for education. My first question is about the medical system. I think my question is there any plan about introducing research-based medical system in our tertiary universities? Because in Ghana, mostly, most of our medical university, they graduate and then they work. And we know that research is very important. So I just wanted to know if anything or any plan has been initiated to introduce research-based clinical subject into various medical universities. And then my second question is about the teachers. In many countries like US, if you have a PhD, you can still teach in primary school. Has this kind of initiatives been started in Ghana? And how is it done? Thank you.
Okay, PhD, and you want to teach? Of course, we'll welcome you. There are few people with PhDs who are at the junior high school level, very few. But I think when you talk about kindergarten, in the Scandinavian countries like Norway, Finland, for example, in Finland, a large majority of their teachers at the KG have postgraduate degrees because they believe that it is that level that matters most. And you have to have the most qualified people teaching there. So yes, I'm hoping that if we put the right incentive in place, we're going to be able to get those people to teach at that level. There's no specific government initiative as of this time. However, it's at forum like this that we get ideas. So thank you for reminding us that we need to improve the level of qualification of teachers even beyond the bachelor's degree. I think the idea of research-based medical institution is very critical. The president recently, at the last speech that he gave, talked about setting up the Centers for Disease Control in Ghana and also other research medical opportunities like Nokochi and in other places. So yes, I think that is the field that we need to improve upon. And anytime I get the opportunity, this is an idea I can propose at the highest level possible. Thank you.
Awesome. Honorable Sam.
Gloria, if I may come in. We have 7 minutes. We said this meeting was set for up to 10 o'clock. Doc, I don't know if you can give us additional minutes or you have another program. Because we have 7 minutes too.
So how much do you need?
Maybe another 20 minutes.
That will be fine.
So I have a question.
That'll be fine.
All right, you can go. So we finish at 10:20. Okay.
Okay, thank you for the overtime. Sam, please, fast. Mayor Shijen.
Thank you. Yeah. This question coming.
Okay, because
okay,
Sam
Sam,
is not ready. The other Sam from Wuhan.
Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here now.
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. My question is, free SHS is and has become paramount to the individual well-being of the Ghanaian populace. However, the nation still battles with unemployment and measures that include YES Initiative, and GIDA, and the rest didn't become sustainable or stand the test of time for political reasons. Is there a reason? Is there any way to institutionalize or ensure that yearly admission of students into the tertiary institution match available possible jobs for employment after graduating in Ghana? And the next question, my question is, what opportunities are available for students from China who have developed technology solutions which are meant to be implemented in our beloved country? Thank you.
Okay, let me take the second question. I know Accra IT Center, for example, have various innovative support systems like incubators that helps people who want to bring up new ideas. You also have to look at the national, I think it's NEIP, headed by Lawyer Kuma, under the Ministry of Business Development. They also have some funding to help with incubators, people who want to incubate the ideas and they have technology that they want to bring out. There are other angel investors in the country. The space is a bit limited, but I think with the right connection, you'll be able to begin something. You always have to look at the niche that you are trying to fill, the opportunity that you think it doesn't exist. It's not simple and easy, but some people are making some headway here. And what I'll do, if you WhatsApp me, I can link you up with some people who are in that space and who can point you to the right place to begin. But I believe there are great opportunities here in that area. You know, AI is at its leading kind of stages, elementary, basic level, and artificial intelligence as solutions are very much needed in the banking institutions and other places. It's always difficult, but I think the opportunity is tremendous, and with the right push, you'll be able to do something that is unique. And don't forget, one computer, one household. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doctor. Please, we'll quickly go on to Samuel Ilmas. But before that, let me quickly send this information, pass this information around. Sam, on your page, the people on your page, we are going to take one last one. So please, I think you should have a consensus and get the one that is most pressing, because Doctor is trying to take, time to explain everything, and it's very important so that you wouldn't rush over anything. So, excuse me to say, we are going to take the questions from here, but one last one from your platform, but we admonish them to still stay on and to listen. Probably some of their questions might be answered in the course of time. If not, the rest, as Doctor has given us opportunity to write to the necessary ministries and also copy him, we will do that in writing if need be. So, Samuel, you are next, and then Gloria Lanjo, you are next, before Sam comes in with the last one. Thank you very much.
Okay, Doc, I have two questions. The first one is there seems to be a patriotism crisis in Ghana, which I see to be a lapse in our educational system. I want to know how our new curriculum is being framed to address this problem that we are having before it gets out of hand among the youth. The second one is that in China, I realize that.
Your Excellency, please, you may go ahead with this one. Because of time, please, one question, condensed. Thank you.
Okay, patriotism crisis. At the day of the independence celebration in Kumasi, and look at the children excited and marching, I didn't see the patriotism crisis, but to understand he has a point. That it's not easy to come by people who are so concerned about their country and they are dedicated. And sometimes they are, but they may not articulate it that way. We may not be in a crisis, but I think we can do better. We have, through our education system, as I talked about the hidden curriculum, begin to look at what kind of Ghanaian do we need to have in order to bring about the transformation that our country needs. And then work ourselves backwards and say, how do we raise that type of Ghanaian? If they happen to be adults, how do we give them the opportunity to see that the future of this country is in their hands? Because you see, sometimes people get helpless. They seem to think that everything that has to be done in this country has to be done by a politician, and he has checked himself out of the country in a way. He doesn't believe that. He thinks it's always NPP, NDC because of what they hear on radio, and some people get frustrated that everything's about politics, and they don't begin to see that they have a role in the transformation of this country. So for the adults, if you look at the initiatives of the president, when he talks about Ghana Beyond Aid, he's talking about all of us bringing our ideas together so that we can transform our country, so that we don't have to go and beg for resources from another country, and that we will begin to give away resources to other countries to empower ourselves. The moment you can give, you feel more empowered than when you are receiving. So us, as an adults, have to begin to realize that this is our country, and this is the only country that we have. And we have to come together to do what it takes to really do the transformation that we need. I will encourage people to read. Let me tell you, I'm reading Dr. K. Buzier's book, very exciting. You begin to look at why he was so passionate about the country, why he wanted to transform the country, what was going through his mind at the time that he was teaching at Oxford, and during the time that he was in local government, during the time that he was in Parliament of Ghana. What was going through his mind? What kind of country did he want to create? You see, when I decided to run for parliament, one thing I decided to do was to read a number of authors. Louis Casely Hayford, I read him, I understood where he was coming from, what he wanted to do, the sacrifices he made coming from Britain, becoming a newspaper editor in Dunkwa, Onofen, and then becoming a high school teacher in Accra. I began to look at what is it that was going through the mind of these leaders. Read J.B. Dankwa, his fascination with inclusion of traditional authorities in the governance structure and the sacrifices he made. You see, once you begin to, you have to educate yourself. You will catch the passion, you catch the vision, and then if you have any streaks of unpatriotism, you begin to see that it withers away. You know, this country is yours. You have a role to play. Where will be your legacy? You were not born into this country by accident. If life was just about you and maybe your family, you have been born anywhere. You are born into a country called Ghana, a unique country with so many special attributes that if all of us were to do our part, we can change the fortunes of this country. You'll be part of the history of this nation. I recently went to UK with one of my colleagues, and we went to the parliament to see some parliamentarians. And I remember seeing statues everywhere on my way there in the Parliament House. And I told my friend, I turned around and told him that I'd rather be African. And he said, why should you rather be African? And I said, you know, here I see statues of great people, paintings of great people. I don't see that many in our country. So maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to have a statue built in my honor in my hometown called Janche. And that would be a great honor to my grandchildren who always see me and say, that is my grandpa. He came to this country and he did something great. We have a rare opportunity to be part of the history of the country. And the idea that we don't care about a country that gave birth to you, we all have to begin to have it so that we can pass it on to the children. Because if you don't, and you are not talking to the children, they will not catch it. When you visit Ghana, I want every one of you, when you get the opportunity, to just visit one school close by where you live. It doesn't have to be your school. Just pass by and tell the head teacher, I came back from China and I want to talk to these children because I think they can be great and greater than China. That will be your patriotic duty. And when you get that chance, talk to them about caring about their country, and then you tell them, just like I have done, spend my time with you. When you grow up, I want you to do the same. That is a great lesson of patriotism that you can impart to any children, better than what they will find in a textbook. Recently, I went to a school. I went to a public library in Accra, and I saw a school, the Independent Avenue School. I saw some children there. I just fell in love with them. I followed up with a visit to their school, and I adopted their class. During the last vacation, I paid for their teachers to teach them extra so that they can do on the BEC. I bought them books and other things, and I visited them. I was actually going to meet with them and their families before the COVID-19 came. Why do I do that? I have my constituency. But I saw them and felt like I can invest in them. I can spend part of my time in them. And one day they will never forget Dr. Adutwum. And because of what I had done, an act of patriotism, they're also going to look at themselves and say, what can I also do? So we have to sow seeds of patriotism in the country and the students based on our actions. And then they will pick up from there and they will do it because we showed them. And it goes beyond what they will learn in textbooks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Gloria, GC Elanjo. Looking at the time, I think yours will be the last question.
Thank you, Honorable Gloria, namesake. Thank you, Honorable Osei Adutwum. Personally, I must say that I feel that the consistency of your presentation tells me about the genuineness of your passion. I had the opportunity of meeting you last year in UCC on the 12th of November, and I made an appeal to you regarding guidance and counseling in our schools. And
I remember you.
Thank you. I would like to know if you've done anything about it, because you promised you were going to do that. And as an extension, what is being done in the nation as a whole? Because you talked about the fact that young kids could be identified and given special attention so they would grow up to be what God has put in them to be. And then this would only be possible, or I should say that, yeah, it will only be possible when there are systems in place to help with the identification of these kids, and hence the importance of guidance and counseling in our schools, especially at the elementary level. I realize that we have them in the high.
Sorry, Honorable, please, your time is up.
Okay, I can answer.
I'm muted, thank you.
All right. You see, I met you and I remember you talking, you speak with the same passion as you did the last time. We are doing something. At the district levels, one of the inhibitions was that the counselors are in the district offices and they don't even have a means of transportation to go to places to work with the students. About 2 months or less ago, we gave new Isuzu pickup trucks to every single district of education, every one of them. Second supervisors were also giving motorbikes. I think the rest are in now, and every second supervisor is going to get a motorbike. We are looking at other resources so that people can go to the schools that have been assigned to them at the basic level to do the counseling. But our Ghana Education Service is stepping up. They are actually looking ahead to recruit more and get counselors at the senior high school, do more counseling than teaching and counseling at the same time, which sometimes makes it difficult for them to do their work. But I like your passion. I'm equally passionate about it because I've seen guidance and counseling working very well. In most schools at this time, they are not doing the guidance part very much. It's all about psychosocial counseling. But the academic counseling is key, it's important. Recently, I selected a group of headmasters and their counselors and assistants for academic to visit Ghana International School, GIS in Accra. I wanted them to see their setup. When you go to GIS, see the counseling office, just like the one I had in my school in the US, and that is how you really counsel. It's not just a crisis situation, inviting the kids or asking them to come and tell you if somebody is abusing them. That is fine, but it's the proactive way of counseling with schedules and getting students to come in individually or going to their class and doing group counseling and individual counseling that will really get us to the destination that we want to be. But I thank you for reminding me. I'll follow up more, and when you get the opportunity to meet you again, I'll give you a situational report. But definitely it's improving, but we need to do more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We are going to take Andy Beijing, and Pius, you quickly follow with yours after Andy, and then Doctor will answer both together.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Education. Deputy, I'm Andy from Beijing. I have a problem with the education system in Ghana, where we have qualified trained teachers who are teaching in our public schools, but the result, the outcome of our students going to senior secondary school is not as good as the private schools, where most teachers are not really trained or qualified or don't have a graduate degree status. Why is this so? And what is done to improve the quality of education at public schools across the country? Thank you.
I thought you said the other one is coming too. Am I getting the other one? I should go ahead with this?
Yes, please. Pius Babuna, please ask your question, or you'll not get the opportunity again. Pius Babuna, okay, all right. Stella Nanjen, add your question, and then Doctor will address them together. Madam Stella Nanjen, okay, all right.
Let Doctor answer the last question so we wrap up, please.
Yeah, I want to ask something briefly. Can we, at this point in time of life, when are we going to have a stable educational system in Ghana so that it will last for at least 40, 50 years, so that the next political party who will come will not change 4 years SHS, the next one will not change 3 years SHS, because it is affecting our admissions and other requirements when we get to the international front. So that is one. And then can the Ghana Education Service promote TV education, where we're going to focus?
Your Excellency, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm honorable. Excellency is the ambassador. So let's move on.
Yeah, the last question.
Yeah, he said TV education, we already have it. There's a Ghana learning channel or station where Ghana Education Service has partnered with GTV, and they're teaching on TV. So that is happening live in Ghana as I speak with you. In fact, City TV is also doing TV. Joy has also created Joy Learning. So a number of television stations are doing something to complement the efforts of the government. So something is going on. Then you talked about something like political interference in education so that we can create a stable education system. My brother, I'll tell you this. All that I can say is this. At this time in the history of the country, we have a president who is committed to education, who is fascinated by the role of education in national development. He has appointed a team at the Ministry of Education, and we know what education is about and how it can be done. So there are reforms across the board, teacher education, making sure that we have infrastructure, bringing ICT, TV education, lengthening the years of training for teachers. Every aspect of education is seeing transformation. As I speak with you, contracts are being awarded for new classroom blocks and dormitories to be built across colleges of education in the country. So a number of things are happening. Emergency construction in senior high schools. Let me tell you this, the only guarantee I'll offer you is that if you want education to be stable in the short and medium term, maintain us in power. And when you do that, you don't have a problem. But I just want to tell you though, is that there are certain things that we're doing that are irreversible. Any government that comes to power 20 years from now and want to reverse free senior high school, I think the good people of Ghana will kick you out in a day. So we will protect the reforms in the ballots, but also on a very serious note, we have to make sure there are systems that are reversible. Because you see, you want to cancel free senior high school, who is going to vote for you the next time? So no government dare cancel free senior high school in their own interest. So there are some reforms that we do and will be irreversible because it has a built-in protection. It's inoculated in a way where you don't touch it. Because if you touch it, the consequence will be dire. And politicians always think about their survival. So the first thing we need to do is to educate the public more, but keep us in power for long. Otherwise, I can't guarantee, my brother. So the no political interference, I think, is something that is not possible in the country, but we can protect it. Now, one other question about why is it that private schools invariably done better than public schools? Single word, supervision. The private school proprietor is looking inside the classroom every day. He understands one thing, money, even before education. But he knows that if his education is not of a nature that the parents want, if students are not passing exams, parents will not bring their children to school, and therefore he will have to shut down the school. And motivated by that, he makes sure teachers teach when they come to school. Even when they are not qualified as the teachers in our public schools, they do their very best to ensure that the students also do well on the exams. So yeah, supervision. And that is why the Minister for Education is revamping the National Inspectorate Board. But it's not just getting inspectors to go there once in a year or twice in a year. It is also about holding the heads of schools accountable. And that is very important. If a head teacher knows that I'm being held accountable and that if my students don't do well, maybe I may not have my job, he's not going to allow the teachers to be absent from school and not come and teach because he knows his job may be on the line. When you take away the accountability element in any human enterprise, it doesn't work. But before you hold somebody accountable, you have to give them the skill set to succeed. When head teachers are not being certified before being placed as head teachers, how can they do well? Headmaster, the best chemistry master, become a headmaster by virtue of the fact that they've taught for 20 years. How is he going to deal with human resource management? How is he going to deal with accounting? How is he going to deal with appraiser of teachers? So now things are changing. The minister has directed that administrator certification should be introduced into this country. And in fact, this year's budget has a component of it for leadership training. And what we intend to do is to train people and also allow the younger generation to come into education leadership. Nobody should wait for 20 years before they get to head a school. If they have the right skills after 5 years of teaching, they can get the administrator certification, a master's degree in school leadership, postgraduate diploma in school leadership, and head the school and hold them accountable for performance. We should be interested in outcomes more than processes. And once we're able to do that, we'll see a different public school system. And that is the agenda we are pursuing at the Ministry of Education under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Thank you so much for the opportunity today.
Wow, I wish this wouldn't end because we really, really have so many questions. I'm going to hand over to you.
His Excellency can invite me another time. I will be available. He's my friend.
Oh, awesome. Your Excellency, please, over to you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Doc. This has been very, very, very inspiring, and I'm glad that you took it. You are our fourth speaker. I think one of the opportunities we got out of COVID-19 was to create this platform, and you are our fourth speaker. So as you said, I think there are a lot of questions and people want to delve deeper. So at the appropriate time, we'll invite you back. So I think you've given us a lot to think about and chew on. Some of them, we've also heard from some of our previous speakers about dreams being possible, and that out of disasters come opportunities. I remember in February when students were clamoring to come to Ghana, I said to them that maybe this is the time to develop your business plan or your big dream, so that when one day you sit back, you say, it was when I was locked up in my room that this idea came up. So you've echoed some of those things, and solving problems with a new set of eyes. I think it's important. And I think one thing that I would like all our participants today to also sleep over is, you said we should also cease of patriotism, because patriotism doesn't necessarily mean that you have to play on the national level. It could even be in your own family, be that change in your family. And I think you've given us a lot today. As Gloria said, you're very passionate about what you do, which tells me that our education is very much in the right hands. And as you said to the speaker who talked about change, it's by keeping you in power and keeping you there that we'll see the fruits of what you are sowing now. So it's been very, very inspirational, and I thank you. I think apart from the seeds of patriotism, you also talked about reading. I've always said to the students and whoever I meet that, you can only change by reading and inspiring yourself. And a lot of the things that you have said have been captured in a book written by Don Xiaoping, who is the architect of the changes we are all experiencing today. Because as the book says, Deng Xiaoping inherited a China that was on its knees. People had very little to eat. I mean, it was a poor country. He was the first leader who said, my country is poor, but this is not what we can be. And through his dream and through his fearlessness, today, China is what it is. But he didn't do anything spectacular, the book says. What he did was that, as you have just done, he inspired the Chinese people 40 years ago that we don't have to be hungry, we don't have to be poor. We can also produce our own scientists. And as they say, the rest is history. So, Doc, thank you very much, and definitely we'll invite you back. Over to you, Gloria. I'd like to thank my deputy, Dr. Jamna, who is here with us, and my minister counselor, Abu, who is here with us. But Abu was our very first speaker when he talked about how the civil service functions in Ghana. So thank you very much. And I hope that for all of you, Doc has sown some seeds of patriotism, seeds of passion, so that when we look back, you will one day say that it was when I listened to Doc that day I made a change, that I was also going to be part of the change makers in my own country, my own family, my own little village. Thank you. Gloria, over to you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. At this point, I would like to thank the general membership. You responded to our call and came out to join us, and we're really grateful. Thank you very much. And secondly, I would like to thank the embassy for facilitating this wonderful program, especially Your Excellency. Thank you so much. Not just this time, but all the other times as well. We're really grateful. And finally, I would like to thank Honorable Adutwum for responding to the call and then coming to speak to us. We're really, really grateful. Thank you so much.
Before you pray, I just want to say something about I think there were a lot of comments on the use of language. So during that time, I just went on Google to check. And if you look at Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, Singapore, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, they all use English either as a first language or as a second language. So it's still a debate, and hopefully when Doctor comes next time, we can talk about it. But there are countries also that use their own language, like you go to some African countries, they are still poor. So the language may not be necessarily the key, but what Doctor said, thinking big. I just wanted to throw that in before the prayers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, is Honorable Fifi online? Can you give us the closing prayer? Honorable Fifi.
Fifi, as in my name has changed to Samuel. Okay, shall we pray? We are most grateful to the everlasting Father for taking us through such a wonderful meeting and bringing us to a successful end. Even as we return to our various work, we pray that you give us the illumination, and as we ponder upon the discussions that we've had with our Honorable Minister and our leaders, we will sow seeds of enthusiasm and energy in us, so that in our daily lives we shall move forward and Ghana shall be great, even as we all try and put in efforts to be great. We thank you for what you have done for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you everyone so much for coming.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you.
I would like
Alexander, your
Mr. Adutwum, Honorable, please, I would like to connect with you.
Oh, you can get my contact.
Please, where can I get it? Can you send it into the chat?
Please, Honorable, we will get the any contact from the Ambassador, His Excellency Edward, and then we will later make it public.
Not public, but I have your WeChat, right, Alexander? So I can send it to you personally. Not like we're gonna.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you everybody for coming. I am going to end.
All right, have a good
one now.
Hey, the clapping didn't come.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Okay, let's have the virtual clap.
Virtual clapping.
People have been right.
Virtual clapping. Thank you so for reminding me.
Now, I think you are still